Bloody hell. What is happening, everybody? Are you serious? What is happening? What is going on, everybody? Yo, it's me for another episode of this thing. I'm doing another episode of this thing. I'm never going to say thing again, don't worry. I'm in a weird mood today. Feeling all over the place if I'm being honest. If I'm going to be really honest. Real-ly honest. Really. Not really. Real-ly honest. That's how I'm feeling for this episode, because it's just me. It's just your little old boy. Is that an oxymoron? Little old boy. Boy implies young, old implies old. Little implies nothing about age, necessarily. When you're first born, you're little. When you're first old, you become slightly littler. Who knows nowadays? I don't. Your host, Alex. No gym today. So it's not broadcast. I don't know what this is, frankly. Hell. You've just stepped into my own small circle of hell. And you're going to have an awesome time. I'm going to see how long this goes. Usually when it's just solo, it is way harder to just keep it on track, keep it going without any silences. But you know the little trick I've done this time? I have in my headphones right now playing... Jim's going to hate this. Lo-fi beats to chill and relax to. So it's just making me relaxed. So hopefully that comes across in the way I'm talking to you right now, the way it's coming into your ears. And for you, the version you're hearing is going to have the chill, JARCast, broadcast, whatever this is, background music that you're used to. So you can just chill. You can vibe there. There's a certain vibe when it's just me and you. Don't tell anybody now. No, that's creepy. I take that back. Tell everybody. Before we get too deep into the show, let me shout out those Jar Media patrons over at the Jar Media Patreon, believe it or not. They make the audio and show, frankly, just in general, possible. But you get that audio version, raw, unfiltered, that damn fresh MP3. Doesn't that just roll off the tongue, that MP3? Love that combination of, numbers and letters and things. But you get that ad-free every week over on the Patreon. That's not all. In the first or second week of each month, you get your patron names read out, if they're not too extreme. We have the final approval on that one. I'm getting a suspected scam from my phone. Shall I pick up? Oh, they hung up on me. Thanks for ruining the flow. That's fine. Getting into a flow state's not a challenge or anything at all. That's absolutely fine. Whatever. Yeah, the patron names. First or second week of each month. If you're a Dibby tier or above. We did them last week, so you'll have to wait till next month, which is not sure. I don't know where I am most of the time, and I especially don't know what the month is, let alone the time or the day of the week. So, congrats on all of you out there that do know the day of the week and the approximate time. In fact, let's just give you a little clap for that. Nice one. You're doing great. You know, I never just stop things to remind you just how awesome you are and how great you're doing. Unless you're doing badly, in which case, I'm sure greatness is right round the corner. Maybe I should just become a platitude podcast. Yeah, when it's just me, it's just platitudes only. You know, things can be hard, but I don't know, if you just believe and your friendship group is right, everything will be okay in the end. These plats rolling off the tongue like the amount of platinum trophies that I have on my PlayStation. I don't have many platinums, actually. I was more of an Xboxer back in the day, but I'm getting distracted, right? Jar After Hours, the other supplementary just beauty show. Like kissing a baby on the cheek. Mwah. You know? It's like kissing a freshly born baby on the cheek. If you know what that's like. Quite nice. They have a certain unique scent. That's exactly what Jar After Hours is like. You got... What did we do last week? What did we do last week? We talked about Blazing Saddles. The Mel Brooks comedy from the 70s. Very funny stuff. There's all sorts of variety content on there. There's watching the Lost Family Guy pilot. There's me reading Diary of a Farting Creeper and humiliating myself. We talked about that South Park Trump pilot episode. The Ben Shapiro Superman review reaction. And while there won't be Jim attached to this episode, the Jar After Hours will include him. And I think that's something to do with Elden Ring Night Rain, which he has been teaching me the ropes of. And it's a very, very good game. So check it out, Jar After Hours, over there. See what's up. And last but not least, I guess, actually, I suppose there's two more. Jar Media group chat. I feel like I'm condescending you, describing what a group chat is. It's a Patreon group chat. You get access through any tiers on the Patreon. Question everything, learn nothing. Shirts and mug. Flying off those store shelves, I tell you. Head over to the Jar Media store if you want to have a look at those. And just remember, question everything, learn nothing. Question everything, learn absolutely nothing. That's the motto that we live by. That's just kind of the vibe of this episode too, I'm feeling. And yeah, last thing for housekeeping, before we move into some of those questions. The monthly vote for which Jar After Hours video to be made public is live over on the post tab on YouTube. Head over there. I think so far the Ben Shapiro Superman review reaction is winning by far, but there are other options on there. Will the Farter will be seen by everybody. One day, when you have the guts, when you have the coordination, when you have the, what's it called? The hive mind. When the Jarlings combine into the ultimate hive mind and prove what's up, then not only will my nipples be lactating like they are right now, but you will have a fresh video on your hands. See, sometimes when I just let my brain take over and I don't think about what I'm saying, I'll say embarrassing things. The nearly 10 years of this podcast goes to prove that, right? The humiliation, the learning, all of that, the embarrassment, frankly, of clips of you speaking from 19, if not younger in some circumstances, all the way up to 30, 31 now. Lots, too much, in fact. I don't envy. At least I got to be like a late teenager if I'd had access to this kind of stuff when I was like 10. Oh Lord, some of the stuff that would be out there. I'm sure some of you can relate. So speaking of comments and leaving cringy things, you bloody Jarlings have been on fire. I've only got 2 from the group chat because I was like, look, listen, I'm by myself. Frankly, I'm thinking about bringing up some serious subjects, still toying with it as I record right now. You know, serious, as far as Jar can be serious. Which depends. It ebbs and flows. We're like a naturalistic sort of organism, you know? We're like a single grain of water flowing through the sands of time. What I really like this one, though, from Shellman. Well, it's lowercase s, capital H. So is it S. Hellman? Don't know. Don't care. But he says, honestly, mate, I suggest you do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, too. That's really helpful. When I saw that, I was like, you know what? S. Hellman, you've given me the confidence to just go for it. And, you know, I did say at the beginning of this, I am going to be alone for most of it, and sad and cold. Especially sad. But we do have a special guest coming on, and it's going to be exciting. It is going to be a remote call type situation, but I'm actually going to call my therapist, and just see how that goes, you know? He's a bit of a legend. We've got that legendary therapist banter. If any of you mental health experts out there know what that's like, you know, hardcore banter is usually what it's known as in that space. But before we get to that, we got more housekeeping to get through, like this one from Darth Jar 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 Ha 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 Ha. And this one actually is like unironically a bit more serious. So put your serious caps on now, alright? Stop what you're doing, calm down. Get rid of them smiles, because you need to be neutral for this, to listen and take this in with the gravitas it deserves. A little bit of a rant, not specifically to get on the episode or anything, but I'm currently in a period of my life where I'm finally going through some positive change. That's nice. I'll be going to university in September and will be finally moving out of my grandma's, where I've been for 6 years now, to live in a house with other students where I'll hopefully stay for the 3 years. I'm planning to never come back home during or after. I've been very limited on how I've been able to express myself these last 6 years, and the last couple years have been especially difficult as I've been coming to terms with being trans and not being able to be myself in my daily life, except for sneaking around, and that's been very suffocating. With finally moving out, I'll be able to look how I want and do what I want without the stress or worry of being judged by an old woman. Still love her and her partner, who voted reform, hate him. I'll be able to start HRT, which has been on my mind daily. I've been really waiting for this. Would appreciate some advice from Jar or any other Jarlings, as I'm going to be living independently for the next 3 years and hopefully beyond, and studying at university. Thanks to anyone who read my yap. I read your yap. I don't know why you had to include the bit at the end. That was kind of strange and difficult to read. No, yeah, this is a big change, a big time for you, clearly. You're not going to know what to do with yourself with that freedom that you're going to get from uni. Hopefully you've gone to a cool one, in a cool city or whatever. But yeah, you're not going to know what to do yourself. If you've been living in this situation for 6 years, not being able to self-actualize, express yourself, it's going to change. It's going to change things for you. Not that I've been to university, but friends and family that have, and talking to them, I wouldn't get too attached to the idea of living with the same people. It takes a lot of people, like a year or two, to find a crew, or some people don't at all for their journey through uni and just wind up living with whoever. It depends on the city, where your circumstances, how sociable you are, and all this kind of thing. But I think just that, it's just what a good excuse for a place to reinvent yourself, to start again almost, to be able to express yourself the way you want to. Not even specifically just through a trans lens, although that's obviously a big deal for you, but like my cousins who have gone to uni, they've only been there a year or two, and the amount they've changed and learned and grown is evident alone on its face. So I'm sure you'll have a great time. That's a bit of positivity. Let's get us going there in that. Everything. Old Man Diabetes has a comment. I like how Alex says season 4 and Jim gaslights him into thinking he said season 3, classic Jim. So yeah. My memory is so terrible, I will often assume if I'm being corrected that, I probably did say it wrong. I'm not going to spend all this time arguing that, no, I did say it right, because I probably did say it wrong. But that obviously leaves me extremely vulnerable to vicious gaslighting, like my brother is frankly known for, so nice to see someone's on my side for once. Just for once in this damn life, in this damn world. Whew. Okay, that's not very chill, relax. That's a bit more intense. But Ratman Zodiac says, it breaks my heart that Jamie keeps forgetting his most iconic quote ever. Regret what you do, not what you don't do. Sure, he stated that it wasn't his words directly, but I literally live by those effing words and try to implement them in situations where I find myself being overwhelmingly indecisive. I also reciprocate those same words when others face dilemmas of their own. If those aren't the most tough as shit, based as fuck words I've ever heard left the human mouth, I don't know what is. And Dr. Worm Official replied to that saying, I've been living by this too, and had forgotten it was from Jar, OMG. Now, just to clarify, I'm pretty sure it's not from Jar. That's like one of those philosopher quotes that I'm not sure who to directly attribute it to, but is definitely something said before Jim was born. But I'm sure he'll take the credit. That's fine. But that is also just a true quote, you know? Like one of my favorites is, a wise man knows he knows nothing. Probably said that countless times on this very show. But regret what you do, not what you don't do. It's kind of a truism, you know? Just something that, in your downest dumps, in those ruts, in the roller coaster of life when you're in a down moment, maybe that is one of those, what's the inverse of a platitude? A truitude? Just a tude. Yeah, that's one of my favorite tudes. No plats going on here. James Lowe says, I assume it's not that Kevin Smith, quoting, I think, me in the last episode. LMAO, Alex, you were in for a surprise. This was during, I think, Daredevil comic recommendations or something like this. And I said, I assume that's not Kevin Smith when they're talking about the writer. But surprise, surprise, I guess. I mean, he's dorky enough, and I knew he loved comic book stuff, but I didn't realize he'd actually written, I guess, runs or parts of runs, or I would need more detail on that. I haven't done full in-depth research on that. I don't know if they're well regarded. I've never talked that much about Kevin Smith online, because I don't know, I feel like I kind of missed the boat on some of it. Some of the late 90s, early 2000s stuff I did try watching, but I just felt like it just passed me by, and it felt like I'm sure this really would have hit at a certain time and place, but me right now, like Star Wars jokes, and I did see Zack and Miri make a porno that had like a whole Star Wars thing. All his dorky stuff is injected in there, and his weird attempts at blockbusters. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on Kevin Smith, because I really don't feel that passionately. I've probably spent more time listening to him from like clips on his podcasts and various things like that than actually watching his movies. Outside of Yoga Hosers, of course, my favorite. Right, let's pivot back to being serious again. I mentioned the idea last episode of we had this person create a throwaway Reddit account called the Throwaway Jarling, where they talked about their experiences being raised in a homeschooled kind of way in what I assume a rural part of America with quite traditional parents, as they phrased it. And I said something to the effect of, this level of homeschool child abuse effectively isn't really possible in the same way in the UK, but I had a few people writing to correct me on that. I've got two here. Erin B. Bowberry says, Alex mentioned that in the throwaway Jarling circumstances, that they just couldn't happen here in the UK. Unfortunately, that isn't the case. My mum pulled my younger sister out of school when she was 12 to, quote, homeschool her, and it ended up with a very, very similar to what the throwaway Jarling described. Our mum had to have check-ins with some kind of governing body at the end of each term, but from what my sister has told me, they were extremely lenient and would let them off for not meeting criteria with little to no punishment. My sister became extremely isolated and refused to even come to family events, spending all of her time online. Myself and my two other siblings moved away. There's quite a big age gap between us and her, so we had no idea how bad it was until I went over one day when it was just my sister there and saw it for myself. I won't get into the horrors of it, but I demanded that my sister come with me that night. She has not returned to our mum's house since. After living with my eldest sister for the past 2 and a bit years, she's now 16 and gets her GCSE results this month. So hopefully a happy ending there. She's lucky that I guess she has older siblings that care about her in that way, and that sucks to hear that. I suppose that any system's going to have people that abuse it and use it in ways that it, aren't supposed to be interacted with. But yeah, that's a shame. And there was one other one from Who Rhythmic. UK social worker here. Unfortunately, in practice, it does happen that kids are just taken off the grid by parents. The American homeschooling movement, I guess through social media, has got a lot more popular over here. Social workers put together a plan to try and get the kid a life and involved in actual education/healthcare/fun activities, but it's often not enforceable unless it's really extreme abuse. I've met a couple of kids who aren't allowed out of the family sphere or really out of the house. I do think that isolating your child like this is a form of abuse 100%, and there should be more powers to stop it. In specific circumstances, I'm not against homeschooling flat out, like traveller kids not going to school but going to lots of events and playing out I'm not too worried about. But in my experience, homeschooling is used as an excuse to control and isolate the child, and a lot of parents doing it and not putting in the organization or the research into their child's education. The social side of school is also really important. Love the cast, by the way. Love that insight. Shout out to all you social workers out there. So important, so underappreciated for sure. Doing the real work while I'm sitting here talking into a microphone. Yeah, that is sad. I guess it's just one of those things that I didn't want to believe was could be in that sort of state that it is, but obviously it is. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. Just sad, upsetting, bringing the room down. Might as well continue, huh? Might as well continue. Got 2 more here before I go into my, I guess my main topic? I don't know. This one's just looser, okay? I'm just going off the gut, however it feels. I don't know how serious I want to get, but like, some of you guys have already defined that for me. JARChive? I don't know. The media gatekeeping conversation reminded me of this guy I met in college. He studied film and wanted to break into the industry after school. But this guy exclusively watched Marvel and DC movies. Exclusively. I don't expect everyone into film to be a cinephile, but man, he talked like he slept through his film history course. It was so bizarre. Yeah, you're always going to find people like that, right? I don't know why they would necessarily study film if that's all they were really interested in. You probably get further just reading a bunch of comics and like writing and drawing your own stuff on your own time. I don't know. I didn't go to film school. And yeah, we're talking about the idea of gatekeeping, especially. And when I've known a bunch of people that have gone to film school, I've heard a bunch of conversations through them, heard about some of the types of people, and you hear like comical. Every course you do is going to have like the stereotype person that is that exact film bro that's from the, you know, the starter pack memes. They wear a Dark Knight shirt every day. You know what I'm talking about. In the same way that like someone that's studying something like maths, you know, might be trying to do everything in their power to go against hype, you know, be as cool as possible. Everyone's going to have like these different characters in their specific classes and whatnot. There was just something specifically about the film dude. You know, the film bro, I guess. Everyone's in like a different stage of their film enjoyer journey. Like, yeah, when you first see The Dark Knight, and it's like, oh, this is my whole personality now. Actually, apparently that's not even really happening in the same way anymore, because like kids being born now, they don't really care about The Dark Knight or whatever in the same way. They probably like Batman in Fortnite more than the actual Batman movies or whatever, you know? I don't know. I think I'm old. I think that's kind of what I've learned from this. But yeah, don't let it get you down. It's fine if you just watches Marvel and DC. Just when it comes to his opinion on like French New Wave or anything remotely strange or not formulaic like a Marvel or DC superhero movie, then yeah, I would just caveat that. And last but not least, Scott Overton 7353 says, "Hi Jar, I'm effed drunk can. I say hi to Les from New Zealand. Love from Ireland. Hi Les, I hope college is going good." I don't know why you did this through Jar. At first I thought when you said Les from New Zealand, I thought maybe you meant Alex, me. Then you'd be saying hi to me, in which case hi, but I know that's not what you meant. I know, I take the hi back. That was me taking it back. So yeah, man, I hope college is going for you, Les. Wherever you are. I guess New Zealand. My home. Okay, this is going to be a sad one. I don't know. So, how did I want to address this, right? I'm thinking about recording something to do with this in some form. I just didn't know where to put it or what to do with it, you know? I think a jar would be a good one, but I was mostly thinking like, maybe I should just make this a jar after hours. Tuck it away. But maybe it should be in a more accessible place. How about that? Because I know that a lot of my mental health stuff, a lot of my journey in discovering myself was aided by people. I would listen to other podcasts where the hosts would open up sometimes and just mention something about their experience. And a few of the times that had happened in a way where it felt like my feelings or my experience was verbalized by someone older than me, but was describing my experience. And it felt like, oh, I've never heard that type of thing explained in the way I was, which helped as like a launch pad for my own discoveries about myself, my own thoughts about the way I tick. I like to, I guess, intellectualize my way out of everything. That's my kind of quirk, which has its pros and cons. You if you want to like logic Spock brain your way out of every situation, you are going to get gridlocked at a certain point. It just straight up doesn't work for everything. We're complicated things, And like I said, the roller coaster of life, when you're in one of those low points before it starts going up again, those are like the true tests. So where am I going with this? What am I trying to say? I guess I was in one of those low points on the roller coaster towards the beginning of the year. Just trying to figure out what I am, what I'm doing. What's my place in this world? What am I? Who am I? Just needlessly existential. And I'm asking myself these kind of questions on a good day, let alone when you're at the bottom of the roller coaster. So I started this journey of trying to get some actual real, I guess, medical help for my situation, whatever my situation is. We always joked about, on this cast specifically, over the years, an era of my life called the crackhead era, right? A very lowbrow kind of, I guess, insulting way of putting it, really. Where I just say things. I just not think. And to me, that was like the entertaining part of it. Was like, what crazy things are you gonna say next? He's so unpredictable. But that wasn't like just when the mic was on. That was like just my thought process, like a chaotic lack of direction, lack of, I don't know, just thriving in chaos, right? Lack of order or structure. And I've really noticed that about myself, that I can't really have order outside of like within the world that I know. Like the last couple months, for example, on my second channel, IHETV, I've been daily uploading on that, which is like a new thing for me. I've never done that before. And that structure, as far as like, well, I got to have an upload every day. I can't just tinker away on one thing and start on another thing and just get lost or whatever. Like, I've got this thing that I've been doing. And I set myself aside 1 month to be like, just do it for 1 month. See what happens. Like a rigid goal that I can't go out of. Then I did it, and then it's gone into 16 days of the new month. And I just hadn't stopped that like cycle yet. I described myself in one of these videos talking about this kind of thing as momentum based. And I feel like I build up into this like momentum, this swing. And I got to hold on to that momentum, because if I lose it, then it's like all that focus is gone and it will be redirected into something else. Something like completely random. I just have these short obsessions with things, right? Like I'll just become obsessed with propagating plants for like a couple months, but then I'll kind of stop caring about it. or like just a random food item or a gimmick drink and stuff like that. And I've done that for so long, I've kind of brought it down into this term that I just call dopamine farming. I'll dopamine farm through like video games, through music even. Like if I find a new album or track that I like, I will listen to it on repeat like 1,000+ times. So I know where like every note is, the like intonation in the usage of a voice or whatever. And yeah, do as I describe as like farming it for all its essence, for all its juices, drinking it all up. But the older I get, the more I've thought about this, analyzing my behaviors as objectively as possible, seeing like, I think I just behave differently to like a normal person. I just am, which I used to like carry a lot more loathing. Used to carry that a lot more, as far as thinking that it was a bad thing, that perhaps you carry yourself differently, you think differently to a lot of people. You just don't find yourself agreeing with a lot of people. You don't have like your thing, your specific community almost, which I think is part of what I get out of doing Jar specifically. This kind of micro community experiment with like semi like-minded people. It's a pretty chill community, which is something I really like. Where yeah, we'll have our disagreements now and again, but for the most part we're silly, goofy, like joking around, but we'll have like serious discussions now and again. People can get real. I like that. But it's just, I guess the underlying thing is it's just not that serious, you know. Where was I going with all this? Where was I going? Yeah, the beginning of this year, I guess reaching this sort of like breaking point where I'm like, man, I can't deal with this. Whatever I'm doing ain't working effectively. Just like knowing inside that I got to change something, you know, whether it be just like obsessive thoughts, self-medicating, just bad things. So I thought, right, let's see a doctor, man. I've seen a counselor before. This was a few years ago now. I went for a good year and a half or something. Found that very useful. But I went for reasons kind of unrelated to this stuff. Or at first I thought it was unrelated to this. Something I won't specifically get into, but that by the end of talking to a counselor for that long, and they were kind of nudging it, yeah, like maybe you should get like screened for something. A lot of these things you're describing are super common, of this and this, but I'm only a counselor. I can't like what's the word I'm looking for? Diagnose you as anything. And I've been in this place for frankly years, where like I'd like some diagnosis of something, not so I can necessarily just medicate myself with something to try and hide away or whatever, but more so to just understand how I work better, so I can just make adjustments. So it's just a bit smoother. I'm the perfect age range where these discussions around sort of neurodivergency and this kind of stuff was only discussed or acknowledged in children in the most extreme circumstances. So if you're causing like an issue for the class of, what the average class size for me was about 31, 32. If you're the one like stereotypical little ADHD boy that literally cannot stay still, that cannot fidget, they got attention, or people that were so disruptive to a point where they basically had to get attention. Those with more of an attitude or style to me that I guess figured out how to mask in certain ways, or when I would have issues, I would hide them, which from what I understand is more of like a stereotypical like woman or girl experience with that kind of thing, because they tend to be kind of more socially aware. So if they have some kind of neurodivergency, they can often adapt in ways that a little boy might not be able to. I'm not a doctor, by the way. This is just like what I've learned through my anecdotal experience, what I've learned through my own personal journey and everything like this. I still don't know, even though I've spoken to a doctor that I paid a lot of money for, but we're getting to that. We're getting there. So yeah, I figured with just all my experiences, like talking about that anxiety video I made forever ago when I was in my early 20s, I always just figured I've got anxiety. It kind of begins and ends there. But nowadays, I don't know. I think that might be not at the top of the pyramid that's causing it. Maybe that's a trickle down thing. Maybe it's in junction with something else. Maybe there's something hooked onto the side of it. I don't know. I really don't know. But I reached this low point, figured, I need to talk to a psychologist, if possible. Then I guess I learned about the process, and this only applies to the UK. This is what I'm talking about, but I'm sure, we're going to be talking about demographics later from all these places that are in the top 5, top 10 most listened countries to the cast. They'll probably all relate to this experience, where it's just useless. Like anything to do with like mental health is useless. You can't do it through. It's at such a ridiculous point where you can't do it through the NHS. You can't go public really, unless you're willing to wait. I think for what I was looking for was an ADHD screening, right? Which I think is at about minimum 5 years now, 5-year wait. So that's enough time where it's like you're in a completely different part of your life. It's almost like completely useless to have to wait that long. So I was like, you know what, I'm at a point where I'm willing to just pay. Like I want to pay somebody, just talk to me. Let's screen this, right? And that was its whole process in and of itself too. And I basically just wound up feeling like I've been scammed. Maybe I wasn't litigious enough. Maybe I didn't do enough research, but I don't know. It's that just forever catch-22 where it's like, if you're in a position where you feel like, I'm okay today, I don't need to look into this right now. So then you put it off. But then when you're doing all this research and doing all of it, when you're in like a rut type situation, your research isn't going to be as good. Your logical brain isn't just going to be in the place that perhaps it needs to be. So I'm just kind of stuck in these endless catch-22s. So I started going through this list. I've got like Bupa health insurance. I've had it for a couple years. You obviously can't do it through that either. I think the year before I started paying for Bupa, they took off anything to do with mental health, so you can't do it through that. And I wouldn't have been able to use it for that anyway, because I went to the doctor for anxiety when I was a teenager, so that's on my permanent record as something that's pre-existing. And that's often how these like insurance claims work. Not that that would have helped in any way in the end anyway. So through Bupa I got a list of private psychologists that would do screenings. Tried 3 or 4 of them, went to all their bespoke websites and everything. I think 3 of them had already put big like pop-ups on their website saying, don't contact us for anything to do with screenings. We don't do that anymore. Frankly, there are too many of you. Because that's another thing that I'm constantly thinking about is like, I see the stuff people are putting on TikTok and Instagram and whatnot, and the self-diagnosing thing where it's like, what is the line? None of us are doctors. We're in a position we don't have access to enough doctors. There aren't enough even being trained in this field to keep up with the demand. So what are people going to do? Of course, they're going to start forming these communities around it, having these discussions that might not be the most science-led. So it's like a complete mess. If you look just on TikTok alone at the like search results, the amount of results that come up for things like, helping diagnose with autism, helping diagnose with ADHD, anything like that. There are heaps and heaps of content farms and stuff telling you kind of what you want to hear. So I'm acutely aware of that, and I want to be able to navigate it in an honest way without having a conclusion already in mind and trying to just find evidence to suit the already made conclusion instead of just what is honestly my experience, which is harder than you think, actually. Spilling my drink all over myself. So yeah, I managed to get through to, it was some kind of mental health hospital in Bristol or something over the phone. I finally got connected with someone who was like, yeah, we got two options for you right now, buddy. You can go into London on this specific day and we can do a screening for £950, or you can do it remotely for 800 or 850. I can't remember. I think it was about 100 quid difference. Insane amount of money, both of them. But I figured, whatever. Like, getting into London's going to add another 100 quid at least for whatever, and all the time that it would take to go there, whatever. I'll do it remotely. So I do this remote call with this doctor. And just the whole time, the vibes were just off. My gut was just telling me that this ain't right. Within about 5 or 10 minutes of this call, which lasted about an hour, I'd heard that when these things are done properly, they take like 2-3 hours. It seemed like, and not to throw shade at this specific doctor or whatever, but he had his like dialogue tree down. He seemed like he got a pretty nice business going of funneling desperate people who I guess have some money to throw into basically fast tracking them to medication. That's all he gave a shit about. All he was talking about. Where my whole thing was with that was more like, I'd be curious to like try something, but only in a specific way. More so to just prove things to myself, outside of looking to that as an end result necessarily. I was more interested in the therapy side of it, the psycho side. But it felt like a speed run of like, if you just Google ADHD symptoms, and you just kind of went through all the symptoms, asking about those, but in a really barefaced, like, do you want me to just, like, lie? Because so much of it, too, the evidence that he was looking for was based on childhood records, which as a 31-year-old, I don't really have much in that department. They're looking for like school reports that say you were disruptive or could never pay attention, you'd forget your lunchbox, this kind of stuff. Which I would do, but like there's no record of it because I was so just quiet. That was my strat, was to just make myself sort of invisible, try and blend in as much as possible. And then, when you're looking at these Venn diagrams that have ADHD and autism and all the stuff that overlaps, and it's like, well, my experience is mostly on this side, but also I do these things and also things that aren't in either of these Venn diagrams. And, you know, a lot of it is focused on like the attention side of it. But I can pay a ludicrous amount of attention when it's something that I genuinely love or care about or want to do. But I just like can't instigate something when it is admin or like just something I don't want to do, you know, like get my tire fixed or something like that. Something that realistically would take 5 minutes, like a 5-minute phone call, like just filling out a form on a website, like just to do and get done. And that's got me in trouble a bunch of times. Like before I had like my direct debit set up for my council tax, or I genuinely don't even know how this happened, but it was during COVID, like 2021 to 2022, I somehow wound up paying for like 2 or 3 car insurances. I don't even know how I did that. That's pretty embarrassing. But I've had like tons of different examples like that throughout my life. And I guess there is something idealistic or hopeful about the idea of maybe it doesn't need to be that way. Maybe my life has been needlessly difficult for something out of my own control in a way that there could have been assistance or helpful, but I just didn't know. And I've had to go on this 30-year-long journey with roller coaster dips so low that it would have been awesome if those dips could have been just a little bit higher. Even if they were still low, that's fine. Everyone's going to have low points when they're a teenager and that kind of thing. But I just feel like, I don't know where my stuff comes from, honestly. I don't even know like what to even give you as far as what I'm talking about. Like, because I got all these theories. It could be some kind of neurodivergency thing. It could be anxiety, depression. Could be, I'm obsessed with this idea where when I was very young, I moved around a lot, right? And not just like moving around the country, like moving around the globe. I left New Zealand when I was 3. Quite a formative year. Obviously, it's going to be insanely stressful with your parents and Jim, who was a newborn at the time, moving across the globe. And I have memories of being in New Zealand, but then like nothing until when we moved to Jersey Island for a few years there before moving back to the UK. So at least 2 or 3 pretty big formative moments for me, as far as like, yeah, there's being 3 years old and going through a big stressful life change like that. That's going to do something. But then maybe that is expounded. Is that the right word? When I think I was towards the end of year 3 in the UK. I don't know how old that is for Americans. Moving back from Jersey Island to the UK mainland, where I've been since. Haven't moved since then. But I see a direct correlation with that experience and this like hermity, recluse sort of obsessed with security and safety thing that I have. That kind of adds up and makes sense to me. As to partially why I am maybe the way I am. I'm just trying to unpick that, like, what is good about that, what is bad about that. Because you do need to periodically be going out of your comfort zone and not get too comfortable. Because both are bad, you know, in the extremes. If you're going out of your comfort zone to the point where you're like getting in danger for like some kind of thrill, that's a negative thing. But also it is when you're a recluse to the point where you're not interacting with anybody, when you're not doing anything. And I've never been too extreme on either of those, way more leaning towards the recluse kind of side. But yeah, trying to just find some answers to it. And I guess reaching a point this year after having this just pointless scam event with this so-called doctor who I didn't trust for a minute. I don't know, at first it was like, oh my god, I'm not going to be able to get any help, huh? Because I'm also like really bad at explaining it in the moment. Because I feel like, I don't know, once you've seen a counsellor for a year or two, you sort of have a rapport there and they have a certain understanding of you. But jumping in with a psychologist for even like 2 or 3 hours doesn't seem like enough to get what I'm looking for. And I guess I just don't even know what I'm looking for. I don't. But I don't know. I find it particularly interesting how it's just a pattern I've recognized over the years of being in like the YouTube space and seeing people come and go and the types of minds it attracts. Obsessive, obsessive people, for sure. Like their numbers, like some sort of routine that's on their terms, quite loose as far as that. Like whatever works for you, you can make work. It's not like a traditional office environment, something like this. And I don't know, man. I'm seeing patterns everywhere, dude. So I don't know. There's maybe when the algorithms get good enough, I can just upload the thousands of hours of recorded content of me talking online and everywhere, and see if the AI can diagnose me at that point. I guess on that note, I can call my therapist because I don't know. I feel like it might help bring it full circle. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully you guys can hear him. I'm going to call him up and see what happens. Hello, can you hear me?
He looks around for the source of the unknown voice. Yes, I can hear you. Who is this?
It's me. I'm not the therapist. You're my therapist. I'm your client?
Your therapist? He quirks an eyebrow. And what makes you say that? There's a moment of realization, followed by a sigh from Tony O. So this is another hallucination? That's just great.
No, not a hallucination. You are my therapist. And you promised you would help me today.
Tony shakes his head and leans back in his chair, rubbing his temples. I don't recall making that promise, but fine. What do you need help with?
Do you think I'm neurodivergent or just normal?
Tony takes a moment before answering, his expression becoming more serious. I can't give you a definitive diagnosis without more information. But to answer your question, being neurodivergent isn't considered not normal. It's simply a natural variation in how the brain works.
Thanks, Tony. But what information do you need to find this out? Because I probably have more luck with you than the NHS.
Tony lets out a small chuckle, slightly amused. Well, we need to look at how you process information, communicate, and interact with others. Do you find it difficult to understand social cues or pick up on non-verbal communication?
You know what, Tony? I don't actually struggle with that. I've never struggled with that. In particular, I feel like I can read people quite well.
Tony raises an eyebrow, a bit surprised but intrigued by your self-perception. That's interesting. How about your emotional regulation? Do you find it challenging to control your emotions or experience intense mood swings?
Now that, yeah, I'm way more in line with that. I get crazy mood swings that can be instigated by small, insignificant things, and you get stuck in a thought spiral.
Tony nods, his expression thoughtful. That's something to consider. Mood regulation difficulties are a characteristic of several neurodivergent conditions, but they can also be present in individuals with no specific diagnosis. What about sensory issues? Do loud noises or bright lights bother you more than they seem to bother others?
No, this is another one I don't relate to. I'm fine with annoying noises. In fact, I've been editing audio for so long that annoying repetitive noises do nothing to me. I'm almost unannoyable by that sort of thing. You know what I'm saying, Tony?
Tony can't help but let out a small laugh at your self-description. It seems your tolerance for annoying noises has reached an unmatched level. Let's explore one more area. Focus and attention. Do you ever struggle with paying attention to tasks? Or do you find yourself easily distracted?
I'm definitely easily distracted, but if I can funnel that distraction into something I'm interested in, then it's like a superpower. How about that, Tony? You like that?
Tony grins, amused by your enthusiasm. Harnessing focus through areas of interest is actually a strength. It's called hyperfocus, and it's common among individuals, both neurodivergent and neurotypical. He pauses for a moment, considering the information you've provided. You've shared some aspects that can be aligned with neurodivergence, but remember that diagnoses require a comprehensive evaluation. There are many factors to consider.
Well, can't you do it? You're Dr. Tony Stark, aren't you?
Tony rubs the back of his neck, a bit taken aback by your request. I'm not a licensed professional, you know, and even if I was, I'd still need comprehensive assessment tools and a thorough evaluation. He looks you directly in the eye. But just between us, based on what you've told me, you display traits that could be neurodivergent. However, self-diagnosis can be misleading and inaccurate.
I appreciate that, Tony. I appreciate you thinking about me, being honest with me. But I need to ask you one more question, though.
Tony nods, expecting the question. Go ahead, ask away.
Can you spoil the Doctor Doom link? Why is he being played by RDJ?
Tony is caught off guard by the unexpected question. Wait a minute, is that what you meant? The Doctor Doom film? And it's being produced by DJ Khaled? He takes a deep breath, looking visibly uncomfortable. I'm no expert on the film's development, but Doctor Doom is supposed to be a complex and layered character. If DJ Khaled's involvement leads to a simplified portrayal, it could undermine Doom's true potential.
Okay, bro. I think you might have a bit of ADHD. You're not paying attention to me right now.
Tony looks at you with a mix of annoyance and surprise. Excuse me, what are you talking about? I'm listening to you perfectly fine, thank you.
Whatever, you hating-ass hater. Well, that goes to show, man. AI therapist for everybody. I'm not condoning that. In fact, I think there was some rule recently changed about it because it is becoming a genuine problem for this exact reason. I should have had the Green Goblin be the therapist. Right. I'm gonna see you after these messages.
Yeah. What's up, Jar Media? Enjoyers, a new hype merch drop is inbound. Question everything. Learn nothing. Hit to the store. You silly billies. Yeah.
Welcome to the second half of whatever this is. It's just me. Just me talking to you, talking to me, talking to you. If you got this far into the episode, comment, please. I absolutely know you absolutely didn't mean it. However, you absolutely must be more intentionally absolute. I've got 12 questions here that I plucked from the suggestion thread over on the Jar Media subreddit, not FNAF. Don't mess around on FNAF unless you want to get into some problems, which I know some of you do. So, Beyblading can start us off here. Jim, if you don't bloody watch that bloody Andor, so you can make an is Andor as bloody good as they say, I swear to all that is bloody, turn off that bloody shortcut from running versus bagging video and watch the bloody show Bloody. I'm right there with you, man. He's trying to make all of us forget. Instead, he's like, oh, I'm going to watch Daredevil Born Freshly Anew again. Bro, I get it. Like, trying to get somebody to watch anything Star Wars related in 2025, that's an uphill battle. That's a challenge. But he's saying he wants to rewatch all of season 1. It's like, bro, just watch season 2, man. You got to get on his case. Go onto his Letterboxd reviews and leave comments about watching Andor. You won't see it, and he has no other social media, so that's probably the best we're gonna have to settle with, I'm afraid. It's so good though. Oh my god, it's so good. I might rewatch it again before he does, and then I'll do a review with me and me doing an impression of Jim on the other chair, reviewing it, and I'll just pretend to be Jim in the same way he pretended to watch the Minecraft movie. I mean, what? I'm Clean Living Baby has our next one. Joys, I've got a little spider for you. Who would win in a fight? Venomized edition. What does he mean, a little spider for you? I just kind of understand it, though. I just kind of gutturally understand what they're getting at. I guess I got to choose between who's going to win in a fight with these Venomized editions. Venomized Argy versus Venomized Billy. Venomized Argy, no doubt. No bias there either. Dog versus 1,000 Venomized Rats. The Venomized Rats win, obviously. Silly questions. Foolish. Venomized Gorilla versus Venomized 100 Men. The men are venomized together into one venom. The 100 men win. One gorilla's not enough. 100 men. Venom is from one man. 100 venoms? OP. Nostalgia Critic versus a venomized wall. If it's a venomized version of Pink Floyd's The Wall, then that would win. But if it's just the Nostalgia Critic venomized against any old wall, I think the critics got that down. Got that down pat, or whatever they say, whatever the idiom is. I'm actually going to find that out. Down pat. Is that what you say? Have something down pat. Yeah. Have something down pat origin. The phrase down pat likely originated from the word pat, which in older usage meant a precise or well-aimed blow or strike. Over time, pat evolved to mean something exactly right or perfectly suitable. Like smacking someone really hard. Etymology is so interesting, isn't it? Our history is so warped. Where was I? Privatized NHS versus venomized NHS. I think the health outcomes would be better with a venomized NHS. You know? Doesn't he like, as long as they're eating chicken or chocolate or something, he could keep everyone alive? Yeah, I'm going to go with Venom. Venomized Eddie Brock versus Venomized Venom. Venomized Venom. Duh. Venomized Tom Hardy's acting as Mad Max versus Venomized Tom Hardy's acting as Venomized Eddie Brock. I think a Venomized Mad Max would destroy a Venomized Eddie Brock, who's a cartoonish, annoying man-child where Mad Max can actually get things done. And finally, Venomized Tom Hardy's stunt double acting as Mad Max in Furiosa versus the Octoboss with Venomized Kite. What? Who's Octoboss? Am I being stupid? Oh, the Octoboss, yeah, from Furiosa. Okay, I am being stupid. Ooh, okay. I feel like Octoboss with Venomized is unstoppable. So yeah, I'm going to go with that. Buono Pizza has the next one. Do you have any tips for someone who has daily diarrhea? I brought a sample to my doctor and he kicked me out. Not sure what to do next. Well, if you've already been to the doctor, it's already, time. You're in danger time. But what am I going to say? Maybe get some psyllium husk? That's something I learned through the cast. Thought it was someone trolling me, but they're just little fibre capsules, that's all. Apparently people don't have enough fibre, and apparently I agree. Psyllium husk is it's not yummy, it's quite dry, if anything, but does the job, I guess. Maybe you need something more binding in your diet. How about that, Bjorno? Rated DG13 asks, what's the worst song/movie you can quote perfectly? Now, if we're outside the realm of, your obvious Imagine Dragons, only one of us could take it out alive and it's not you. Cutthroat, any number of their bangers. Spin a wheel with them. Or LMFAO, or Black Eyed Peas, all the classics, of which I can quote weirdly well. There's another one, a film, that I can quote in a way that makes me want to vomit, that the energy that I put into memorizing this stupid bad movie. Well, I mean, awesome movie, but that bandwidth I could have been committing to algebra or like an instrument or something that would be useful to me in the future. Is not lost on me, right? Takua! He's got more rocks in his head than a Pomatoran. Takua! 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 Look, Puku, that's why they call me the Chronicler. I bet no one's ever recorded this before. Takua! What are you doing down here alone? We're supposed to be at the Coley match. Oh yeah, sorry, Jaller. Hang on a sec, I've got to check out that totem. You're hopping across lava to look at a stupid warning totem? Do you know what Teruga Vakama would say? Irresponsible. Now come on! Be right there! Ha ha! Very impressive. Now let's go. Takua, get out of there! Uh-oh, Jaller, look! A great Kanohi mask. I'm just gonna leave it at that for you. I could do the whole movie like that. If you've got the guts. Let me know if you recognize that. Some of you will, and it's gonna be like a Ratatouille eating the Ratatouille moment. Oh? You know what I'm saying? Spiritual Carib 2609 has a genuine question for you guys. How do you critique a movie? How can you tell if a movie is truly good, and how do you genuinely put it into words? I feel like each time I finish a movie that I like, I can seem to find the words that describe how much I like it. And I can't for the life of me get into why I like it in detail though, which is an issue I'm trying to figure out the solution for. If you want to get good at anything, you just kind of got to do it again and again and again and again, you know? Like, that's one of the things I wanted to get out of starting Sardonicast all those years ago, where it's not only just ragging on like the worst of the worst movies, but finding a vocabulary to talk about the stuff you love as well, because it is a lot of the time harder, you know? Like when you put on The Godfather and you want to say something about it that hasn't been said a million trillion times before, there's almost more of a challenge there than the admittedly fun ragging on the new War of the Worlds or whatever. One is definitely harder than the other. I would just recommend note-taking. It's always easier to expound on a note than trying to sift through memories that maybe came into your head while watching something. Obviously, it's a lot easier when you're in the comfort of your own home or an environment like that where you can't always be taking notes in a theater or anything like this, which I do sometimes, but I much prefer the experience at home where I can pause something or rewind something, or as I was going to get at, the second watch of something I feel like is the real litmus test for if something holds up, if it has a through line, if it can pay off things that you didn't notice on a first watch because it was so dense with information or secrets or foreshadowing or all sorts of things that are the joy of movies and filmmaking. But frankly, like, you just got to do it. Like, I would give that same advice for most questions that are just like, how do you do a thing? You just got to do it. You're going to be like garbage at first, but the more you do it, the more things you pick up, the more patterns you start to recognize, the more kind of tropes you see, and whatever it may be. And you can figure out your own niche within that. No Project 593 says, favorite forms of mischief. I'm partial to harmless mischief. It's one of my issues with ghosts and goblins and that kind of thing, you know, where they're just a pain. It's annoying. Like, it's not even funny to anybody at that point. Like, there's such a delicate balance with like the annoyance thing. Like, yeah, you want to be annoying, you want that mischief, you want to like You want to be a mischievous, annoying presence, but know when to cut it off before it's like, okay, now I actually don't want to be around you, because the level of mischief that you're introducing into this environment, into this space, is actually starting to stress me out. Okay, but that's a learning process, you know. Like, here's an example, right? There's someone I know who, for maybe the first 3 years or something of knowing them, they told me that they didn't know how to swim and just couldn't swim. So every time I would do something with this person, I would make sure, right, let's make sure that there's no like water involved in this. You know, if we're going to go on holiday or we're going to go on a trip somewhere, let's make sure there's no water, because that's like a hazard to us now, knowing that you can't swim. You're a grown adult that can't swim. Okay, that's fine, we'll deal with it. Then, like, years later, they reveal to me, as what I think they thought was like an epic, practical joke, mischievous moment, revealed that the whole time they could in fact swim. So I guess instead of me being like, that's really funny, man, that's awesome, you got me good, it's more like, oh. So all of those like swimming related activities that could have been on the cards just weren't, because of something you thought was funny. I don't know, let me know if you think that's an awesome joke or not. But that's just a form where it's like maybe a week, maybe a month, but like to hold on to something like that for years, that's just a level of like unhinged mischief that I can't get behind. Or another one, right, with the same person. I'm not going to reveal who it is, but their dad bought them a mug, right? Just like a corny mug with like a sausage dog on it. Then this person's dad, I guess they took this sausage dog mug and hid it again for about a year. So in that year time span where the mug had been stolen and hidden away, a replacement had been bought, the exact same mug, in this time frame where it was assumed it just gone missing. So then a year goes past, and the sausage dog mug comes out of its hidden place, and it's revealed that it was an elaborate practical joke the whole time. I'd hidden this from you for a year. So then it was more like, oh, again, not really very funny, just kind of annoying, because now I've got two of the same mug. Isn't that epically hilarious? So I think there is, some people know how to do mischief and some don't, you know? It's not like a natural gift to a lot of people like it is to someone as legendarily mischievous as me, you know? So, I don't know, my favourite forms, when they just on the border of going too far, but then stop. That's definitely my favourite form. Yeah. But that takes some training, it's rough. It gets rough out there. Loptical asks, when you get dressed, do you wear a shirt or trousers first? Rip Flute said, Alex puts trouser on first, then his tighty whities on top. Then Alistair13 says, I like to Winnie the Pooh before I put on my trousers. Yeah, I have one of my obsessions, one of my many obsessions, alongside tracking surfaces, things like this, is making sure my area ain't needlessly moist, you know? I don't want to be trapping moisture in with my tidy whities all day long. So maybe I am going to Winnie the Pooh, let things air out for a bit. You know, I want everything dry and clean and just nice, breathe in. You know, I'm not going to hop right out of the shower, everything's still wet, and just, that's what mushrooms like. You know, mushrooms love that shit. They're obsessed. You know, I can't be doing with that. So I want to protect my tidy whities. I want to protect my trousies, my pants. So I probably put shirt on first, then go Winnie the Pooh for what 2, 3, 4 hours till I'm completely bone dry. Then the rest can go on, if it hasn't already gotten too late to where I might have just fallen into bed and started honk shoeing. You know, who knows? Who knows? There's lots going on. I said I'd do 12, but I'm starting to feel fatigued, so I'm going to keep going. No, I'm not going to do that one. I'm sorry, I can't. Or that one. No, I'm not going to do 12. I'm not going to do those two either, because honestly... right, fine. I'll do this one. Do 2 more here. Let's round this down with 2 more. Bebo Baby says, what's your opinion on AI adverts? Recently, almost all of the ads I see on TV/YouTube/other social media recently use AI. It's creepy, lazy, and makes me not want to buy the products. And I'm right there with you. It's getting creepy, man. Like, just for that bit I did earlier with the Iron Man therapist, I downloaded that app onto my iPad called, like, Character AI or something. It's free. But when I was in the App Store, the, like, suggested... like recommended app when I searched that was like, twerking AI, take all your favorite people from your real life and put their face onto this AI body so they can twerk now. And that's just something you can do now, I guess. So I find it freaky. I find it quite Black Mirror-y, quite dystopian tech hell, Blade Runner cyberpunk landscape we are living in. And yeah, it makes me not want to engage or especially buy the products. The only AI things I've ever engaged with are free, or at the very least funny. You know, I've never paid for an AI thing. That's for damn sure. Let's wrap this one up then from Warlock Wabbit. Have you ever talked about the YouTube analytics for JAR, in particular the average age of the viewers? It's hard to believe anyone beyond 16 is a frequent viewer. Anyway, I turn 54 tomorrow. Game on. Okay. So I grabbed a few different stats here that I thought were interesting. For some reason on Podbean, I couldn't find the age and gender breakdown, which is kind of annoying. So I've only got country demographics there. I'll have to search harder perhaps next time. But I do have YouTube age and gender stats here. This is specifically from the last year, if you take up those people. So only a shocking 9.5%, a surprising 9.5% of JAR listeners on YouTube or watchers are female. That's really not surprising to me at all. Male being 89.6% and user specified 0.9%. That's really what I would expect to see. There's nothing surprising about that. As far as age ranges though, 13 to 17, 0.2%. 18 to 24, 43.8%. And the biggest percentage is 44.4%, 25 to 34 years of age. Then 7.7%, 35 to 44 years, 2.4%, 45 to 56 years, and 1% for 55 to 64 years, and 0.5%, 65 years and up. So it claims there are more 65 years and up than 13 to 17-year-olds, but I assume that's just people making accounts, inflating, particularly I'm sure the 18 to 24. Why would you make yourself like 17 when you could... I definitely lied about my age when I first made a YouTube account and stuff like that. That's kind of interesting, not too surprising. The only thing that's surprising to me is when there's someone older listening. And the fact there are almost 10% of people, more than 10% of people that listen or watch that are older than me is quite intriguing, actually. And top geographies on YouTube for the last year, 33.6% United States. This is the top five. God, my voice is going. 33.6% for United States, 29.8% United Kingdom, 6% Australia, 3.8% Canada, and 1.9% Ireland. So that's cool. Always like to see Australia so high up there. But in contrast to the Podbean statistics, the number one on the listener front, so this is iTunes, Spotify, all of it. I even saw there were like 200 or 300 people that listen specifically through Xbox. That's unhinged, first of all, but also shout out using that feature. So, yeah, 36.87% are United Kingdom listeners, and 29.57% are from the US as listeners. So it's almost like a flip of the YouTube stats, where the US are 3-4 percentage points higher on YouTube, and the UK are 3-4 on Podbean. And yeah, the rest the countries are perfectly aligned. The next is Australia, Canada, Ireland. It's just the percentage breakdown is ever so slightly different. Australia, in third, is 7.43% of all listeners, as opposed to 6% on YouTube. Canada gets 5.1% on Podbean and that sort of thing, and 3.8% on YouTube. And finally, Ireland, 2.65% on audio platforms and 1.9% on YouTube. So pretty in line, pretty in tow, but there's a bit more passion coming out of the woodwork from different places on the audio versions, which I like to see. And man, yeah, the more variety the better, I say. Keeps things interesting, you know. Hear all these different anecdotes, all these different stories. And we're getting to quite a few stories as we approach the 10 years of Jar. It must be, like September or something? Just nuts. Just completely insane. Like the length of this episode, how long it's been going, and how little, frankly, I think I'm going to have to edit out, which is always nice for me. I don't know, it's really helped to have these chill beats just in my headphones the whole time. It makes me feel like I'm already in a video. It's weird. That's going to do me then until next week, where hopefully Jim is back. We can catch up. We can talk about our usual silliness. I assume, we'll probably have a housekeeping about all this mental health stuff. Your thoughts on it, your own journeys. I'm very curious as to how people have got on, discoveries they've made, things that they've thought were important that wound up not being, or vice versa. Guess we'll see you on the next vid, wherever you hear my voice. Lots of different places to hear it. Look at our Patreon. We'll see you next time. Bye!